Right, all my stuff's come. Yeah, I'll give you a quick run through it. We'll start with control first, I think, which is here. We've got sub-panel controller. This is a sub-panel. Looks okay. I'm happy enough with what's arrived. It's nice steel back plate, well marked out. All the keys are in English. They all make sense. Pretty much understand what they all mean without actually looking at the manual. Or I think I know what they mean without looking at the manual. Nice positive action to them. The buttons, they're an actual physical button rather than a membrane, and they've got a nice positive click to them. Feel good. Typical switches, like a mode switch, MPG, feed rate and spindle override. So yeah, that's okay. The back side has a fly lead that connects to the controller. You've got your typical buttons with the terminal blocks on that can be replaced. Normally open, normally close type. So yeah, circuit board, printed circuit board. Feels okay. So them's the switches you can see there. Feel decent quality. Right. The controller's got a membrane keyboard. To be honest, I would have preferred a button one like these are, but saying that, it's a good quality membrane. It's nice big buttons, nice positive feel to them again. Yeah, feel okay. And they're not something you're going to be touching all the time, so it's not like they're going to wear out too quick. Plus they've got a nice cover over the top of them, so your dirty grubby fingers are not knackering the keys up, which you'd see a lot on controllers. Your function keys for the menu that pop on the screen. It's an 8-inch screen. As you can see against my hand, it's a reasonable size. It's got a protective cover on it. So a USB port there and RS232. So you load your code in there. You use RS232 or it might be 485, I'm not sure. You could use that to drip feed from a computer if you wanted to. Shouldn't have to. It's got plenty of memory in it. And that's the model number of it. Let me show you the back side of this. All sort of DB connections, 25s, 15s, 9s. They're all labelled up. Each one of these little stickers matches the DB25 connector on the cable, and it also tells you what each one does on each one. Power supply there. That's where you hook up your main supply on there. Yeah, so overall that's okay. This is a relay board, come IO board. So you've got 12 relays there, outputs, relay outputs, and you've got your inputs and outputs there. DB25 connectors will just connect straight up to the controller. And there's an absolute mass of cables come with it. Mass. These are the cables. Quite impressed with the cable, if I'm honest with you. Normally I'm not a fan of Chinese cable. It's usually cheap, nasty stuff. This feels decent quality. I've retrofitted quite a few Chinese machines, and the first thing that gets ripped out is the cabling, because it's usually horrible, nasty stuff. This don't feel too bad. Although, how the hell they've done this? There's 3 cables going into one DB25 connection there. How the hell they've done that? I've no idea. I struggle getting one cable in. I'm not a fan of the idea, if I'm honest. I'd have preferred separate ones, but if it works, I suppose it's all that matters. I won't like to have to do it myself. On the other end, you've got the connections that go into the drives, which again, they feel okay. They're a nice connection. An RJ45 connector to connect up to, I think that's for the servo that connects up to the servo, one of the servo drives, and then it's like an ether cat type system, and there's some flying leads on the drives that connect each drive together. On this little bunch of cables, this is just one bunch of cables, there's some more. there's actually three dB connections on this. Obviously this is all your encoder feedback, and for the spindle, for the servo motors and the spindle motor and everything, so that's what that is. This is some more cables. All these cables relate to the controller and pendant. This is another RJ45. I keep calling it Ethernet, but it's not. But it's RJ45 type connection. On the other end, it's a DB connection. Again, all reasonable quality. And where they're not connectors on the end, where the loose wires, they've all got little labels on them telling you what goes where, which will match them somewhere in the manual, which I have got. Well, that's the other thing, it came with all paper manuals, which is quite good. So you can see quite a lot of cables. The packaging, although it looks like it's just in flimsy cardboard boxes, it's actually very well packaged. The boxes are a good thick sturdy box anyway, but everything was wrapped in this polystyrene. This is actually for one of the servo motors, but all the controller and the subpanel had its own little wrapped in this polystyrene stuff, and in the box, and then all these bits of things like this were packed around it, around all the edges, everywhere, the cables, between the cables. It was very well packaged. Nothing we're going to get damaged without a big smack. So, and then obviously, as you can see, the other things came in wooden crates, and all the boxes are the same. Each servo came in its own box, in its own packaging. The servo drives came in separate boxes. So anyway, I'll get on to this. Is the motor for the spindle. It's a servo spindle system. It's 11 kilowatt, I believe it is. 12,000 RPM. I had to have this made. I've had to have this shaft machine special to match my pulley, because this Fidel's got a big twin, very expensive pulley on it, which I needed it to match. Can you see? Got the fan on the top there, cooling fan. Nicely made. It plenty of paint on it. Nice feel to it. It's got fans. These are like cooling fins, ducting, some lifting eyes. And then you've got for the power to go in. This is a multi-pin connector, and all these cables just relate to the servo spindle. Again, you've got nicely terminated steel, good, reasonable quality. Again, RJ45 connections, and then wherever there's loose connections, they're all labelled up. This is the servo drive. Again, you can see quite a big thing. Great big heatsink on the side, fan. Again, was all packaged in. It sat on the polystyrene that it came wrapped in. These are your power connections, power in and power out. RJ45 connections. That's the braking resistor. It's about 18-inch long, that. Again, you can see against my hand. Quite a big thing. Handheld pendant, freebie that they threw in. Right, these are the servo motors. The NEMA 42 1.5 kilowatt servo motor. This is a NEMA 34 750 watt servo motor for the 4th axis. Typical Chinese type motor. Nicely finished off, if I'm honest with you. Again, plenty of paint on it. It's all labelled up, all the connections, the IP65 connections. These are steel, they're not plastic. They look plasticky, but it's not, they're all steel. The system's an absolute encoder system, not incremental, which means basically when it's turned off it remembers its position. So for instance, if the machine was off and the Z-axis dropped without you realising it, that the controller will know when it turns back on, because you have a battery backup. This is the encoder cable, and in there's a battery and a backup system, and it keeps count of the encoder. So if the encoder moves, it keeps a track of where it's at, and that's what that is. And then you've got another cable there that's just for the motor power. Now the drives, I'm very impressed with these drives. I've had lots of Chinese servos over years, and these are by far the best I've ever had. Great big heatsink on the side with a fan. Normally Chinese servo drives are in plastic cases, they feel light and tacky. This is in a steel case, it's very well vented. It's you can see it's all aluminium backplate. It feels quality. It's hefty, it's sturdy, and it's not lightweight. Some the cheaper ones, I feel like there's nothing inside them. This is solid. It feels quality in your hand. So if it performs as it feels, it should be good. And I say it's an absolute system. These are the RJ45s. There's a little, you have some fly leads, basically they jump from drive to drive, so they can all talk through each other, to each other. They've got your plugs there. In the box there's some plugs that go in there to match. You got your buttons for your displays, for your parameters. So yeah, feels very good. I'm happy with them. Oh, and the manual, I think I've mentioned it already, but it comes with paper manuals for everything. But the manual for this drive is by far the best I've ever seen for a Chinese manual. And to be honest, one of the best I've seen for any servo manual. It's in perfect English. There's no Chinglish in it at all. It's not full of waffle and crap. It explains things simply. You've got some diagrams in there that explain things, as well as text descriptions. The parameters are all there. It tells you what the parameters do, but without getting overly technical. Spot on. So the manual, very impressed with. I think that's about it to show you on that front. Obviously the motors, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's about the length of my hand is that. So I'm going to have quite a, that's where they're going on the back, where the old motors were stuck right out here. They were sort of, well, I can actually, I'll take you for a little trip and I'll show you. Don't walk under ladders. No. Right, that's the old motor, one of the old motors. And that's the new motor. In fact, I can't even hold it in line, so you can see they're half the length of the old motors. There you go. So quite a bit of space saving inside there, and that goes on there. I might have to hold that in my hand for more than half an hour. Right, I'll show you this quickly. It's going in there, depending, the sub panel and the controllers are going in this box. But I'm gonna have to make a panel, which I know I'd have to. That'll go there, and then above it will be the controller. There'll be some space for some extra buttons, because although I'm sure the controller might show me it might be able to show me the load, I don't know, I haven't checked that out yet, but if not, on the old, this is the old panel that came off, there's an analog load meter, and I'm pretty sure the servo drive will have an analog output for the load, so I'll probably connect it up to that if it doesn't show. Plus there'll be room to put switches on, because again, I'm pretty sure some of these buttons will be able to be repurposed, especially these relay buttons, for turning things like the lights on inside the cabinet and other things like that, which I'll want. So I might end up putting buttons in as well. So, but that gives me plenty of space to do whatever I want, really. Just got to make the panel. I can't reuse this. I did wonder about reusing this, taking this out and just reusing the frame, but this little step here steps off. It's like a pressed steel thing, so that screws that up, really. So I'll have to make a fresh one. Plus it seems a shame to destroy that, because I'll just sell it as one complete housing to some Fadal person. I've got another little issue that I've got to deal with. On the old system, all the cables came through this hole into here. I'm not going to be able to do that with this. There's no way I can get them DB25 connectors through there, and I'm no way I'm taking them off and resoldering them, because they'll just look a nightmare. So I'm going to have to adapt, because basically what happened before, all the cables run along the top inside this trunking in there and run across the top to the back to the control box and went down there, but like I said, it's not going to happen. So I'm going to have to make some new entry system on here somehow, and hopefully make it so it's not going to affect the wires too much. So, we'll see. The other thing I've got to do is where the spindle mounts on there. This plate's either got to be modified or remade, make a new plate. Probably make a new plate, if I'm honest. Which I know, which I've known all along. But I haven't made anything until I've got, you can see it goes in there like that. I didn't want to make anything until I've got actual parts in hand. I don't like working from drawings because you can easily get it wrong. So now I've got the boss. This boss won't fit, so now I've got the parts in and I can machine the plates to either fit this boss or make a new plate completely to fit this mounting, because I've got the old mountings are different and everything, so I've got all that to deal with. No big deal once I get into it. All the pulleys have got to be bored. Well, this one hasn't. It's just got to have a keyway cut in it, but the motor couplers have all got to be bored and keyway to match the new motors, so there's lots of work to do still. And I'll be honest with you, don't be getting giddy and excited about seeing it done anytime soon. I'm just so busy. What between the COVID situation, shutting everything down, not being able to get parts, for COVID affecting our family, so had to isolate and things like that. It's put me so far behind, it's beyond funny now.